This week's podcast is a recording of the live webinar I did on the overlooked causes of sensory. It is an hour podcast, but it is jam-packed with strategies. It also has an ebook that comes with it, so I recommend, and a handout. I recommend you actually go to the blog or podcast page and download that because it's going to give you lots of tips and strategies to make a difference to you and the kids you know. Hi everyone, welcome to the Sue Larkey podcast. As I always say, you have to embrace difference to make a difference. Let's dive into today's podcast. Okay, so I promised an hour of power. I want to make this fast moving. There is going to be lots and lots of tips. Everybody who sent questions, you're amazing. I have spent a couple of hours going through them. The way I do the questions, I integrate them in the talk, and then there's a couple of questions at the end which didn't really fit into what I was going to be talking about, and hopefully I'll get to those. If I forget your question, do not stress, just email me directly because I will stress tonight that I missed it. So just email me because I forgot to collect your email addresses when I got the questions. The other thing is, if you do have a question after today, I'm always available anyway to message me. So please feel free to message me at any time. So we're going to do a deep dive into the overlooked strategy things that I wished I had known years ago. But the first thing I need to know is your prior learning. So what I would like to know, I noticed with the questions, a lot of you have done my workshops before. So welcome back, everybody. But I'm interested. There's probably some newbies here too who don't know who I am. So I would love you to share which courses have you done before. If you've done a few, just pick the most recent course you did. So if you have done a few, pick your most recent. Wow, there is a lot of first timers. Okay. Excellent. Amazing. So I'm going to... we have 27% have done my course, so welcome. This is really going to build on what you already learned in my course, because in my course I cover sensory meltdowns. This is more before that, like a lot of the sensory triggers and things to be aware of that impact on behaviour. So whereas we talk about sensory meltdowns in my workshop. Those of you who've done Tony, the way I see it, I'm a teacher. I do what to do. Tony's a psychologist. He does what is. So he does talk about sensory, but more from a clinical perspective. Early childhood, welcome. A lot of the early childhood educators who ask questions, I actually realized looking at your questions that a lot of your questions actually were the things I cover in my main course, and I didn't do so much in your early childhood course. So that you might want to look at doing that next. Temple and Sue, welcome. I'm going to be talking about Temple. Teacher assistants, welcome. And emotional regulation, and first time. Half of you, 48% first timers. So welcome, first timers. It's lovely to have you here. So those of you that is your first time, I need to warn you, I talk really fast. I'm a teacher. I would never talk this fast with my students, but the advantage of this being recorded, you can go back and replay it. I started teaching 30 years ago, and I had a student in my class who I wished I'd understood about sensory. And I've now worked with over 3,000 students, and I always am looking for sensory first. Whenever I go into schools, the first thing I'm ruling out is sensory. It's what I wished I'd learnt more about at uni. Now that we've completed which courses, I thought, well, why don't we win a course? Don't put your hand up. I'm going to give away some of my courses. So you can either choose to join me live virtual, or if I'm coming near you, or you can do the online on-demand course. So let me see. Julie Sacario. Oh, don't put your hand up, guys. Sorry. Anyone who just joined us. Putting hands up actually throws my whole screen. So I was just about to say Julie's surname. I found you. Julie, S-A-R-A-C-Endo. Julie Sacrendo. You can win a course. Let me choose someone else. You can wave on your, if you want to win a course. How about that? Let me see who's waving. John Hamley. I think you've already done a course before, but you have to, no, don't put your hand up or clap. That's throwing me. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry. I think I confused. Let me see. Sorry. That's my fault. Susie Walters. You're doing it personally. I can see that. Cheryl from Kingsgrove Public School. Clen, Cheryl, yep, well done. Yep, fantastic. One more. Let me give away one more. Natalie Bell, you haven't got your camera on, but I'm giving you you don't have to have your camera on, by the way, but I know some of you don't want to do that. All good. Fantastic. So, excellent. Hope to see you in person. Make sure if you won a course in person, you come up and say hello and we can have a photo together and share it with everybody that you're a winner. And in the handout explains what to do if you win any prizes today, but literally you can email Andrew. I am in Dubbo tomorrow. And I think we have like one place left or two. So I'll squeeze you in. If you're in Dubbo, I can still fit you in tomorrow. But next week I'm in Melbourne. I hope some of you are coming to Melbourne. So for particularly those of you who are new, look, you are in the right spot. We are going to do lots of practical strategies. So many of the things we're doing today are going to help lots of children, not just children who are diagnosed. 23% of you are early childhood. A lot of these things we see in children in early childhood. And when I asked people in the questionnaire what their challenges were, so many of you said regulation. And a lot of regulation comes back to sensory. So for me, the important thing today is to understand it is individual. And one of the challenges we have that I wish I had understood years ago is how children can set each other off. So when I worked in an autism classroom, I had 8 children who had limited verbal communication. And what I found, they'd set each other off. One child would make a noise that would set another child off. And I know we've got a librarian who said in their question, what do I do on wet weather days when all these kids come to the library and a lot of my neurodiverse kids, all the noises, everyone else? This is the hardest thing in busy and complex schools. Give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying, where kids can set each other off. And for the parents who are on here today, it's really important. This is why your children are different outside the home. Because at home, they're normally desensitized to their own home. In fact, some parents don't realize their child's sensory triggers and challenges until they move house or go on holidays. Because many of our children actually are desensitized to their own air conditioner. And their house hasn't got 30 people in it, or in an early childhood, 60 children. Can you imagine how overwhelming that is? So nod your head if you know what I'm saying, that how individual it is and the domino effect that we get. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kerry. I saw a big nod there. But really, it's why I did my master's in special education, because for me at uni, I just learned what is autism, not what to do. And in fact, one of my first books that I wrote, that I actually don't talk about that often because we have so many more OTs available. But when I first moved to New South Wales, I'd worked in Victoria and I'd had occupational therapists in the school. And when I first moved to New South Wales, I'd say to teachers, oh, just see your occupational therapist. And people would look at me blankly like, what do you mean OT? Because at that point, 21 years ago, most OTs weren't working with young children. They were working in geriatric or trauma. And now we have a lot more OTs throughout Australia. And a lot of people are aware of the role of occupational therapists. But when I first wrote this book, I really wrote it because it was everything I had learned as a classroom teacher from occupational therapists. And I wanted all my colleagues to know it. And this is what I find with all my books. I always write books based on what I wished I'd known. And the stuff in sensory, I had no idea. Like one of you has got where a child's making noises. See, children make noises to block out other noises. They put output to block input in sensory. So very often the family mightn't see that at home because they haven't got all that noise, that output to block input. Give me a thumbs up if you've seen that, where the child starts making noises to block out others. Thank you, Christine. Amazing. And I guess the other thing to be aware of, we only added sensory to the DSM in 2013. Can you believe it? It's not even 10 years since we have recognised sensory is an important part of understanding behaviour. So can you tell me in the chat, yes or no? Did you learn about sensory and the impact on behaviour? You might have learned about sensory, but did you learn about the impact on behaviour at uni? Tell me in the chat. Yes or no? Yes. So, yes. Okay. Some people did. Excellent. Sorry. It's going crazy. No. Not at uni. Yeah. Yes, some people did. So I love that. Okay. So if this is all new to you, you're going to take away lots of strategies in the next hour. If you learnt a bit about sensory, I'm hoping this will not only confirm what you've learned, but also reassure you that you're on the right track. So as I mentioned, Leanne let me know today that the ebook did not download, wasn't on the page when you signed up. I'm sorry, when you went to the information with Zoom and everything. So I apologize. We had a little bit of a glitch our end. So when you go to the replay, that ebook will be there. Or if you were on early, hopefully you have already downloaded that. Now, the reason the ebook's important, it's actually got some really important things on auditory processing, which is in a busy and complex classroom, one of the things, that slow processing speed. So can you tell me in the chat, how long I want you to pick one child, how long did they take to respond to an instruction? Tell me in the chat. How long? And I know it depends. Thank you. Yeah, good. I was going to say, it depends how long. Over a minute. And a lot of that has to do with, if you're busy blocking the output, then it's very hard to even know people are talking to you. Those of you who've done my course know I talk about I'm a GPS, but there are some really handy strategies to build on your prior learnings with me in how to help children with their auditory processing. And this is so important. Now, for me, my biggest mentor has been Temple Grandin. And anyone who doesn't know Temple is considered one of the top 100 influential women in the world for her designer cattle abattoirs. And Temple said this, "My nervous system was all hyped up, like it was in a jungle full of dangerous animals for no reason. How can you socialize if the environment is hurting you from a sensory standpoint?" But I think this is the important thing that Temple said. One kid's got sound sensitivity, another can't stand fluorescent lights, I can't stand scratchy clothes. Now, Merinda, your son cannot stand scratchy clothes. And I found that really interesting. And she said he'll wear his scout pants, he'll wear his, he started to wear jeans, but he will only wear shorts even when his legs are blue. Now, my question would be, because reading what you said, is what are the activities he's doing in school shorts? Because sitting at school in pants is very different to being at home wearing long pants. Depends what you're sitting on. Because even if the textures, because I was trying to work out if the scout pants are like the school pants, but for many of my children, Temple would say just small clothing adaptations made a big difference. So what I have found for many of my kids, it's not just their pants, it's when the buttons on their tops, they chew them off. In secondary, when they have the buttons all the way down, that becomes difficult. So some of my students, actually the buttons tickle or scratchy. So I suspect that your son, the pants are scratchy. But I wonder if there's the activities that he's doing in those pants that he's doing at school that make them scratchier. Some people talk about the overlocking. So the type of overlocking can be very sensitive. But one of the things I found over the year, whether it's the buttons or the pants, is actually putting on the pressure clothing, like the sporting skins, can make a huge difference if he'll wear those. So give them a try. But I totally have had so many students who have those blue legs and it's distressing. Now, Millie, you had a really interesting one, a child who was hurting themselves to self-regulate. You said it wasn't self-harm, it was self-regulation. Absolutely. We know this. A lot of our children actually will bite, headbang, and it actually releases an endorphin. So you are 100% correct, Millie. Your child is actually trying to release pressure to actually regulate that movement. Personally, I'd be seeing an occupational therapist about that because they need to try and work out the replacement. Now, one of the important things, one of the really important things I need all of you to write down is this. Children always replace one behavior with another. There is no zero. So if you stop a child biting, they'll start hitting their head. Because if they're biting to regulate and you just stop them biting, they've still got to replace that behavior. So children always replace one sensory behavior with another because it serves the purpose. Now, I haven't worked with a child yet, haven't wanted to climb in their brain and work out what is the purpose. But my experience is if people stop a behavior, they will replace the behavior. So let me give you a classic example. Everybody get ready on the chat and tell me this. A child's rocking on their chair and teachers tell them to stop rocking on their chair. What behavior do the students replace it with? Everybody, tell me in the chat. So they're rocking on the chair. What happens? They stop listening. They kick their feet, tapping other people. Yes, amazing. Tapping the table, clicking their pens, tapping their fingers, spinning their pens. Oh my goodness. But then someone tells them to stop tapping their pen. They will replace that as well. And when they stop tapping the pen, guess what? They'll end up on their body. So that someone had picking the fingernails, chewing their fingernails, chewing their collar. So what happens if we take away that rocking on the chair? Ultimately, they will replace it with body behavior. That is my experience. If you take away the sensory tool, they'll replace it with body behavior. So that is why there is no zero behavior, because behavior serves a purpose. So we have to understand that this sensory is done for a reason. As I say, love to climb in their brain and have a look. But for me, that's where Temple Grandin has been my absolute mentor. So when I was at Western Autistic School in Melbourne, I did my master's in special ed. I had heard about Temple. We didn't have Google then. We didn't have Facebook, internet, none of that. And I'd heard about Temple's book. I posted off to America. It took 3 months. No Amazon, no next day delivery. It took 3 months for this to be posted out for me to use it for my master's. And for me, when I read this book, it was like, oh my goodness. It gave me such insight. So that's why I went on to do my master's in using visuals, because of the auditory processing, the sensory. I realized like this is really why we use visuals, because visuals stay up. Visuals are really important. Andrew, can you just see if you can find who needs muting for me? So I need to be clear. I am not an occupational therapist. I just have learnt a lot from OTs and truly believe we all need to understand. I call myself a pracademic, which is a practical academic. I'm not going to show you pictures of the brain today. I'm constantly getting lived experiences. I'm talking to people, talking to OTs, trying to understand how to best support our children. But what I know is sensory has a massive impact on learning. And any of you who know Temple know she built that squeeze machine to actually help herself regulate, that deep pressure to regulate. And any of you who have done my course with Temple will know her machine broke, and she actually now likes hugging people because she's desensitized. And that is so interesting, because some of my children go from hating something to loving something. Give me a thumbs up if you've seen that. A child who like hates a food and then ends up loving it, or hates a sensory, like I had a child who used to eat the Play-Doh, never play with it, and end up being her favorite thing. Thank you. So there's the changes we see. Now, one of my absolute favorite books, do not put your hand up by the way, is written by an OT. And I was in a school last week and the teacher was telling me this is her favorite book too. So it's called Behaviour Solutions for Inclusive Classrooms. And this book actually is amazing because it's got an OT help write it. So if you've got a child with difficulty following directions or attending an off task, what I love about this book is it just has a heap of solutions. So I'll go done it, done it, done it. But what I have found over the years, the ones I often miss are the sensory. And Beth, who's one of the authors, is an OT. So she's put in all those sensory things. A child with, needs movement breaks. And I've put a heap of them in the handout for you today too. But the lovely Casey has a child who is singing. And again, I think singing to put output to block the input. In here, Beth has a whole lot of kids who are humming, talking to self, or inappropriate vocalization and odd gestures. So Casey, I'm going to send you that book because I think what you're going to find, your child might stop singing, but they're going to keep replacing that behavior with something else. Now, It's on my website. It's called, I call it See a Behaviour, Look It Up, but it's called Behaviour Solutions for Inclusive Classrooms. Someone was just asking in the chat. So let me choose somebody. It's on my website, Carolyn. So let me choose someone else to win the book. Let me choose Natasha Hogan. Yay, you can win it. Amazing. Let me have a look. Jan Wedgwood, you can win that book. You're going to love it. And Amy Gonzalez, who's sitting with a group. You can all win that because that will be really helpful for all of you. This, honestly, I take it to every school because often people ask me things and I'm like, difficulty with small group activity. Okay, tried it. Oh, I missed that one. So for me, often it's just finding those missing little things. Fantastic. So bear with me. I just need to go back here. So winners. Oh, there's 3 in the series. So if you've got one, let Andrew know. Now, Temple Grandin, I'm going to show her trailer for the movie because the movie has been on some of the stations now. We used to have it, but it's hard to get on DVD. Obviously, you'll have to look online for it. But it really is fantastic. And I'm going to pop it on so you can just see the trailer because you're going to get some amazing hints about sensory.
Autism is not a psychological problem.
I am not familiar with the remedy.
Calm down, sweetie. Sweetie, calm down.
It would be better if you could get her to sit calmly. You're trying to control her.
But we were told self-stimming is good. It eventually calms them.
Self-stimming is self-comforting.
Self-stimulation, rocking, spinning, rolling on the floor, flapping.
I think spinning is good. And rolling, too. Self-stimulation does seem to eventually calm the nervous system. It can be a way to compensate for not being held. And being held by another person is scary, but rolling or being held by surfaces produces the calming effect that ordinary children get from a hug.
How old's your child?
Well, I don't have children. No, I'm autistic. And I need the sensation of being hugged. And I've developed a machine that I get into and hugs me, and I'm different afterwards. I'm more social. Well, I didn't speak until I was 4. Now I have a BA and a master's, and I'm studying for my doctorate.
How did you learn to speak?
Please don't shout. Please don't shout.
Most autistic people are very sensitive to sounds and colors. Overstimulation hurts. You know, people talking too much at once, can cause us to panic.
How did you get cured?
Well, I'm not cured. I'll always be autistic. My mother refused to believe that I wouldn't speak. And when I learned to speak, she made me go to school. And in school and at home, manners and rules were really important. They were pounded into me. I was lucky. All these things worked for me. Everyone worked hard to make sure that I was engaged. And they knew I was different, but not less. Now, I had a gift. I could see the world in a new way. I could see details that other people were blind to. My mother pushed me to become self-sufficient. I worked summers at my aunt's ranch, went to boarding school and college. Those things were uncomfortable for me at first, but they helped me to open doors to new worlds.
Excuse me, please, but we want to hear everything.
Tell me in the chat if you've seen the movie and if you enjoyed it. I personally absolutely loved it. Some of you I know said you've already done the Temple Grandin course. I think my course with Temple is one of my best courses because it has Temple's lived experience and then and often excerpts from the movie and then me talking about how to use that in the classroom. So I'm going to give away some of my Temple Grandin courses because I like sharing these things with you. So let me find some people I have. Oh, someone had a big yes up behind them. Oh, I lost that. Oh, please don't put your hand up. Sorry, I have to keep saying that. Okay. Leanne. Oh no, hang on. Sorry, I apologize. Sue Taylor in New Zealand. Sorry. If people don't put your hand up because the people's names disappear before I can read them. And then I feel bad because I half read the name. Let's go. Andrea O'Rourke and Frances McCarthy. You are the winners of the Temple course. But the good news is you can all watch the first lesson for free on Monday. The first lesson is all about what Temple calls the loving push on extending children, how and when to extend children. And it's fabulous and it'll give you a taste for the course, but you'll all get an email Monday giving you access to the Temple's first lesson, which I promise you'll learn so many great tips from. So just a reminder, so Samantha, you asked about diagnosis. So as I say, I'm not a psychologist, but in the ebook, there are some things to look for. So make sure you have a look in the ebook, Samantha. And Christine, you asked about FASD and SBD. Again, that's more of a question for a psychologist or an occupational therapist, not so much for me, but thank you for that question. But what I know is that very often we just need to be a sensory detective. We need to be really good at noticing whether the child over or underreacts. For me, when I started 30 years ago, I had a child in my class who used to come in under the table and cry. Big tears and a puddle of tears. And nothing I did worked because it was a sensory meltdown. And I wish I had known that because everything I tried did not work. It was sensory. And a sensory meltdown is not a behaviour meltdown and it's not a tantrum. And that's why when those of you have done my course, we really break down what those are. However, what I do know is for many of my children, that sensory, it's noticing what the child, because some likes, because some of my children and the little boy I had years ago actually did have some sensory things he loved. Now, sensory is not unique to autism, and although sensory processing disorder isn't officially a diagnosis, I still think it's vital that we understand because it has such a huge impact on our students. However, I just need you to remember that every child is different. Strategies wear out. Not every strategy works for everybody, but in my experience, most strategies work for 1 in 10. Because in the next half an hour, I'm going to do a deep dive into giving you some examples and strategies, but please understand, not all of these work for everybody, okay? So each child is very different. And Karen and Motha, who just didn't have a question but were keen to learn, this next half an hour is really going to give you some top tips and strategies. So what I would like all of you to do is share in the chat which of these have you seen. Difficulty moving between activities, upset by certain sounds, full on all day, no off switch, constantly moving. Difficulty controlling their volume. You know, some children talk very soft, some talk really loud. No fear, absolutely no fear. Doesn't recognize personal space. Frequent behavior over nothing. Always asking for the toilet. Always seems tired or avoids foods and limited diet. Because these are all the things that we often see and we don't realize the massive impact it is having on our children. Oh my goodness, some of you are typing so fast all these numbers. This is amazing. Oh my goodness, incredible. Wow. Love it, love it. So to me, many of those things are to do with sensory. So, and people on the spectrum tell us they have sensory. My children tell them about their sensory. And it's actually the first thing parents notice. The first thing parents notice is normally hearing. And they go for a hearing test and it's fine. Because a hearing test only tests a child's ability to respond, not their ability to process. Which is why in the ebook I put those tips around auditory processing. But what makes it difficult is Karen has a child who overreacts. Whereas Casey has a child who goes from over to underreaction. So I have children. Get ready on the emojis if you've experienced this. Who has a child, give me a thumbs up, who touches everything? Give me a thumbs up if you've got a kid who touches. Give me a love heart if you've got a child who hates touch, who won't touch the Play-Doh, who hates touch. So as much as we've got children who love it, we've got children who hate it. Give me a thumbs up if you've got a child who eats limited food, like 5 things. And give me a love heart if you've got a child who eats everything, puts everything in their mouth, who's eaten all the Play-Doh, who eats everything. Oh, someone's got both. I have some children who love smell, sniff everything, you know. And then I have children who hate smell. If parents can't even cook when they're child's home. I have children who actually visually stim and love liquid timers and love doing stimmy and stimulating on the sand. And then I have children who really struggle with a busy worksheet to identify, who have trouble focusing. I have children who love sound, make sound. You'll hear them coming, the loudest kid in the class, and then children who cover their ears at the slightest sound. And I have children who seek constant movement and children who hate movement. I've taught children who are escape artists, and I've taught children who don't even like to climb up on the equipment. So we get all of those from our students, and each child is very individual. So this is where, if you can get an occupational therapist to do an assessment, it's really, really helpful, because they can indicate to you what the challenges might be for this child. However, they're all the external. And they're the ones I find everyone talks about. Everyone talks about, oh, the child wants labels out of their clothes. They talk about the external. But the one that I find is totally overlooked is the internal, is understanding this child doesn't get internal pains. And that is called interoception. So can you share in the chat, if you were hungry, thirsty, tired, or needed the toilet right now, what would your learning be like? Tell me in the chat. Distracted, terrible, not engaged, non-existent. Yes. So for many of our children, this is exactly what happens to them. So I would love you to actually go back and have a look. Is the child eating? Are they thirsty? Are they tired? Do they feel pain or not feel pain? Temperature, hot and cold. Are they using the toilet? And other internal sensations too. So, Brittany, you've got a child who refuses to eat and drink and severe anxiety about the toilet. Imagine the impact on learning. So, everybody, can you write down these questions in your handout? Because a lot of us forget to ask parents. So, number 1, does the child eat, drink, and use the toilet at home? We need to know. Do they have to be prompted to go? Is it a routine? Like when I worked in the autism school, it was toilet, wash hands, eat food. So if that's the case, the child doesn't actually get the feeling of needing the toilet. It's just routine. Now, for those of you with PDA children, pathological demand, a lot of those children will not go to the toilet because now it's a demand. Their body's demanding them to eat, to go to the toilet, to drink. So they will refuse because now that is a demand. And that took me a while to understand with my PDA children. So if it's a routine, there's no pressure because we're just going to wash our hands, toilet, wash hands, eat food. That we don't have to think about it. The more routines, the better for my PDA children, in my experience, because it takes the pressure off. And they're not waiting for their body to demand it. They are just going. But I find routines work for all my children. Actually having a set time to eat, drink, go to the toilet. So find out what they're doing at home, number 1. Number 2, all of you need to ask the parents this, and parents, you need to tell the school. Number 1, what does the child drink? Because many of my children do not drink water, and that is all there is at school. A lot of my children drink juice, cordial, milk. The reason for that is water tastes different depending what it's in. So water in this compared to this, compared to fresh from a tap, tastes different. Whereas juice, cordial, milk tends to have a consistent taste, which is a sensory issue again. So what do they drink? Number 2, what do they drink from? Many of my children at home have a favourite cup, favourite straw, favourite Thomas cup. We need to know that, especially in early childhood. Some of them still have a bottle and the parents haven't told you. So what do they drink from? Thank you, Lisa. I can see you writing down these things. So Lisa Hall, you're getting a prize for writing this down. You can choose any prize you want in a minute because you are working hard there. What do they drink from? She could have been doing a shopping list, by the way. What do they drink? What do they drink from? This is the most important question. I need every one of you to ask the families. How do they access it? My experience is the child gets given food and a drink. They actually don't know they're thirsty. They haven't connected this angry, tired, frustrated feeling with thirst. Many of my children don't know they're thirsty because they are used to what I call first class service. They're used to being served a drink and food at home. They have never initiated getting a drink. Or the ADHD kids constantly going to the fridge and getting food and drink together. Whereas what I found in schools, they offer them separated. The drinks are in one tub, the food's in another, or their drink bottle's on the outside and their food's in the container. So are they putting the two together at school? Because that's a problem-solving task. And if their body's not telling them, they don't think to do it. So I think that is vital to ask. So just back to your Brittany, I would be checking at home what they're eating, what they're drinking. Do they eat with other people? Because there's another challenge that's in the ebook called misophobia, which is when other children are eating, they can't eat. The sound of other children eating can set some of my children off. Give me a thumbs up if you've got a child with misophobia, which is if chip packets, any sounds like that. Thank you, Kate. So many of our children have that. I also, if any of you have children still in nappies like Brittany does, I highly recommend you listen to episode 152, where a mum shared her experience of toilet training her twins. They were very different, their needs. And I interview her and talk to her about that. And I think that's a really helpful podcast if you have a child who has severe anxiety around the toilet. Cherie, you've got a child who's putting food in their cheeks. Can you check at home what is happening and then email me? Because I'm keen to help you with that. That sounds really challenging. Okay. But I wanted to share this from a mum called Deb, who said, the concept of interoception helped my understanding of so many different things for her son. Why he can't self-regulate. Why he looks okay on the outside and suddenly he'll explode. Why he doesn't understand how his own body feels from the inside out. And this I found heartbreaking. What sort of tummy ache is it? Hunger, need a poo. I don't know, Mum. There seems to be a disconnect. The list goes on and on. I just find that, can you imagine for a child not being able to know, is this feeling in my tummy hunger? Is it butterflies? I'm scared. What is it? Do I need a poo? What is going on? Can you imagine for our children, add that to the classroom? Most of you can go, oh, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired. Imagine not knowing, because that's the other thing. A lot of our children don't sleep well because they don't know they're tired. So in the ebook, I've put some tips around sleep because sleep has a massive impact on learning. So I truly believe we need to rule out toilet, drink, food. We can't manage so much at school, the sleep, obviously, but being aware of that is so important. So in the ebook, make sure you have a look at those tips around food, drink, sleep. But I really love, it's easier to change the structure than change the child. So personally, I love timers, and I like to do half an hour work, then we're going to go to the toilet. And this is really important in secondary because then there's no vapors out there. In early childhood, there's not lots of children. Send them when there's not lots of children. We're going to do half an hour work, and then we're going to have a snack. Now, some of you in early childhood are going, this child can't have a snack. What about all the other children? I'll come to that in a minute. So I like to do half an hour work, drink, half an hour work, toilet, half an hour food. But I would recommend it's actually a movement break too, that they get up and move. These are what I call preventative breaks. Dean Beadle, who I've had come out to Australia many times, Dean talks about if teachers gave him a 5-minute movement break, they'd get an extra half an hour of work out of him. So in the ebook, I've actually put some great tips for preventative breaks because I'm just finding a lot of people are thinking a break's a tent. Some of my children need big body breaks, not just small body breaks. Can everybody share in the chat what are the breaks that work for the child you know? Choose one child. What break works for this child? Is it food, drink, toilet? Is it movement? Movement. I love this. Basketball. Yes, I've had lots of kids. I had one child who throwing beanbags was amazing. Drink outside, fresh air. Fresh air is so good. Oh, you guys are amazing. You're all over this. This is incredible. So, just a reminder actually to build in those breaks. Now, I have a new book out, which some of you will know who follow me. Those of you who know The Red Beast, This book actually has helping children understand anger, but part of it is helping them understand the sensory, that the sensory can actually cause anger too. So I'm going to choose some winners, and you can choose either of the books to win. So let me choose. Oh, sorry. Don't put your hands up. I know I keep saying this, but if you do it, Michelle Whiting, thank you for waving. I love that, Michelle. Good listening. I love that. Judith Peel, you're going to win. You can choose which one you want. And Joanne Doherty, you can choose which one you want to. But if you don't know these books, they're absolutely fabulous. And I like to do them with the whole class on teaching anger. They're just beautiful. The pictures are done by Haytham, who has autism, and they're just beautiful. And he has done all the pictures too for the workbook. And there is, you can buy the workbook, and then you get a PDF you can print out and use for your students. So you can use them with groups. And if I've got any teacher assistants on here, I highly recommend you do this with your students. So a reminder that we need to look beyond the behaviour. So when I asked in the survey for this webinar, the questions, I asked, what is your biggest challenge? Look how many of you had self-regulation, student following directions, student easily distracted, difficulty with transition, and constantly needing the toilet or never uses the toilet. But what I find interesting, that child with the toilet could be the self-regulation issue. So just remember, toilet, food, drink all impact dramatically on self-regulation. So I thought we would just do one example, which is, what behaviour do you see when a child is sitting on the mat at the table or assembly? Tell me, when the child is sitting, what behaviour do you see? Rocking. And what else do you see? Wriggling, fidgeting, rocking. Look at muttering. I'm loving this. I love it. This is amazing. So personally, once I see that, I have to be a sensory detective. So in your handout, what I've put is a pro forma, where you're going to choose a behaviour and actually look, what behaviour are you getting? Because remember, they're going to replace it, and then try and work out what are the issues for that child. So, for example, sitting. Is it actually people near them? Some of my children don't like people near them. Some of them like leaning on people. Is it actually children pushing or touching them when they're moving or when they're having to wait? Is it the flooring? Because some schools have cold floors at assembly. Is it the carpet? Some of my children don't actually like the feel of the carpet. Is it the clothing issues? Like I was saying earlier with crossing your legs, often your pants feel different. Or is it shoes, which is interesting. One of my little boys didn't like sorry, the thing's gone a bit blurry. I think I moved too fast. Sorry. Let me just go back. So, it's fine now. Some of my children actually, when he was crossing his legs, he didn't like the feel of his shoes pushing into him. Not a lot of taste when we're doing sitting, but smell. Look at all the challenges. Looking, sound, teachers whispering, shh, 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 loud talking, singing. But the one people often forget that one of my little boys really struggled with, people constantly putting their hands up and down. He found that constant movement of other people actually made him feel uncomfortable. And I had never thought of that. I'd thought of a lot of the other things, but other children moving their head, other children getting up and down can actually make some of my children nearly feel seasick, which is very interesting. But then we add to that thirst, tired, hungry, need the toilet, overheating. Can you imagine the impact on your learning? So what are the structures we can put in place? So we've talked about the problem. So for some of my children, I always get grumpy when I go in and everyone wants to give a child a wobble stool. Not every child responds well to wobble stools. In fact, when I work with OTs, a lot of our kids are better with a chair where their feet are solid on the ground. So tell me in the chat, have you ever been to a coffee shop where the table's rickety or the chair's moving? How do you react? When you're sitting there and it's just like moving around and not stable? So annoyed. Thank you. It's so annoying. So one of the things when I go into classrooms, first thing I do is I sit in the child's chair, see what it's like for them, see if their feet are on the ground. If they've got a rickety table, that would be enough for one of my children to stop work. Because think how annoying if you're trying to write and the whole table is moving. This is why some of my children don't like sitting next to someone else, because the other child's movement, just like I was saying with assembly. So I would love you all tomorrow to go look at the actual environment. Look where the child is sitting in a chair. Look where they're sitting on the floor. Now, this is why secondary is so hard. They often have up to 8 changes a day. Now, the other thing for some of my children, we might have a sensory mat if they don't like the feel. Now, I love these sensory mats because I can move them everywhere with me in the early childhood. If we're outside, if we're in group time, if we're making a circle, this can be amazing. Now, I like these ones without the air in them. The ones with the air in them, some of my ADHD kids get so focused on the wobbling, then they can't focus on me. So you're going to have to work out, and remember, try different things. But for many of my children, I would recommend put yourself in their shoes. I have found over the years actually telling them how long they're going to sit makes a difference, because often it feels like hours to an ADHD kid. ADHD kids really struggle to understand time, and that's why the visual timers are so important. Have a look on my website. I've got all the different sizes, and they really are a game changer for all children. But I love this, and it's such a good reminder. You might see tag to this child. It's like it's a cactus in there and they cannot concentrate. Tell me in the chat if you're a person who cuts out labels. I'm a label cutter outer. Tell me if you're one of those. Yes. And for some of my children, remember, buttons can feel scratchy, like there's ants in there. Can you imagine? Look how many of you are label cutter outers. I love it. So when children actually are struggling to sit, maybe what you need to do is send them first or last to the mat. Some of my children in secondary, letting them leave before everybody else can make a huge difference. And early childhood too, sending them first or last. So one of the things when I go into early childhood settings is when everyone's napping, often you've got to wait till everyone is lying down and resting before you send that child to nap, because the smallest noise or sound can set them off. Warning them how long, using timers, offering more breaks, giving a job. Actually giving them a job creates a movement break during the session. So look where you could build in a job if they're having to sit for long periods, particularly for something like assembly, by the way. Maybe they can be on taking some photos, or maybe they can be on the music, but get them up and moving. So across the day, look where the long sitting periods are and think, how can I break that up? Obviously, identifying the triggers, teaching self-regulation, have a look in the handout, meeting their sensory needs with sensory tools, which I'm going to give to at the moment. But number 8, if you've got the handout, can you circle that? I think this is the most important one. Actually teaching children to communicate their needs. A lot of my children don't know that it's the label. They just rip off their clothes. I had a little girl who used to strip off her clothes until we worked out it was the overlocking and labels. Can the child actually identify that feeling? Do they actually know that they're hungry, need the toilet? So you might need to actually work on helping them understand those feelings, helping them identify them. So if they're used to having food and a drink, maybe you need to separate those and explain you're hungry, you're thirsty, actually starting to introduce that language. And Kay, who I wrote The Red Beast with, she always says we need to talk more about our own interoception. So my challenge to you for the rest of the week is to actually verbalize, I haven't had my breakfast. I'm tired. I haven't had my lunch today. I was busy on yard duty. I'm finding it hard to focus. Actually talking. What is the impact on you? Oh, I need the toilet. I'm busting. I think we don't talk about it enough. We just regulate our own interoception without actually giving the children the literacy, the emotional literacy to understand. So can you give me a love heart if you agree? We need to talk more about our emotions connected to hunger, thirst, toilet, and let children know how this impacts on us. Because when I'm doing toilet training, the first thing I say to parents, take your child with you. They probably don't know what you're doing in that little room. You know, actually taking the child going, oh, I'm busting for the toilet. Oh, I need to do a poo. I know some of you are like, Sue, stop talking. No, the more we talk about it, the better. Okay. So, of course, in transition, same, I would go through that list. What are the sensory? And I like to go through that list, and I've included that pro forma in your handout. So, I want to have a little debate with you because I want to talk about sensory tools. So everybody, can you tell me in the chat, have you got a favourite sensory tool that your students love? Tell me in the chat. Have you found something the students love? Tell us what they love. I'm trying to find some of my favourites here. Blue tack, poppets, kinesthetic sand, stretchy toys. Yes, I just had some there. Amazing. Yep, there's my stretchy toys. Play-Doh, chewy tubes, amazing. I love all these stretch bands. Yep, stretchy toys, chewy necklaces, Rubik's Cube. Yes, when I interviewed Chris Borneo, he had a Rubik's Cube the whole time. Wooden spinning tops. Yeah, I love these ones. These are the wooden hand massagers. These are amazing. Fantastic. So one of the biggest challenges I get is the old, what about the other children? So we are going to have a little bit of a debate. Those of you who have been to my workshops before, this is a little bit of the reminder. So, if your name starts with an A to E, you believe glasses should be banned in schools. Tell me why reading glasses should be banned. It's just a bit of fun. In the chat, reading glasses should be banned because if your name starts with an A to E. If your name starts with an F to J, hang on, glasses shouldn't be banned. Tell us in the chat why they shouldn't be banned. Excellent. Fantastic. So glasses should be banned. They get lost. They get broken. I'm seeing some good things. Oh, they shouldn't get banned. They help with reading. Oh, somebody said they should be banned. They're expensive. They help us see. Yes, fantastic. So glasses should be banned. They're expensive. They get broken. Children lose them. They get dirty. Glasses shouldn't be banned. They help children read, focus, more independent, stay on task. I love it. Okay. If your name starts with a K to P, you believe all these things should be banned. That children shouldn't be allowed toilet breaks, movement breaks. They shouldn't be allowed sensory, chewy, all those things people said help. They should, if your name starts with a K to P, all those things should be banned. Interferes with learning, loving it. People fight over them. Germs, I love that one. I love that. Oh, distractions, I love it. Fantastic. Anyone who hasn't had a go, no, they shouldn't be banned. Tell me in the chat why they shouldn't be banned. What is the value of these? Helps them focus, help them regulate. I love it. Fantastic. They're helpful. Oh, you guys, I'm teaching to the choir, dare I say. So just a reminder, just like my glasses help me focus, stay on task, help me actually regulate. Because without my glasses, now I want you all to come back to me if you're distracted. Come back. I need you to focus. Everybody, pick up a piece of paper. If I take away my glasses and I go to a restaurant and I forget my glasses, show me what I'm going to do with the piece of paper if I forgot my glasses. Show me, Jamie. Show me, Rosie. Yep, fantastic, Lisa. Well done, Kate Campbell. Excellent. N. Reedon. Well done. So, take away my glasses, I replace it with body behaviour. Remember what I said? If we take away something, the child will replace it with body behaviour. That children, if we take away the sensory, replace it with their body. If you take away my glasses, I replace it with body behaviour. So this is why it's important we actually understand, does that child need food, drink, toilet? What are the sensory triggers for that child? Because if we take it away, they're going to start humming. They're going to start rocking. They're going to start chewing their fingernails. So just like my glasses help me regulate, focus, be more independent, for many of our children, we need to look at sensory. But in my experience, people forget food, drink, toilet. They are vital that they are in place just as much as our sensory tools. Amazing. So, Julie, you had, this is one of my favorite sayings. Fair isn't everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need in order to be successful. So please remember that if a child needs this, it's exactly like glasses. So I like to do that glasses activity, and I do it with children as young as 2. I'll say, do you know anyone who wears glasses? Oh, yes, my Nana wears glasses to read. Well, Carolyn here needs this to help her focus like your granny. I'm not giving away diagnosis. I'm just explaining why the child sees it. I find this very helpful to do with the whole staff. And I explain that not everyone needs glasses. We don't run around giving everyone glasses. We only give glasses to the people who need them. And some children need juice, cordial, milk. Yes, but you drink water. It's no different. It's helping children understand that difference, that for a child on the spectrum, maybe being allowed to have milk is the same as me being able to have glasses. So give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. That actually using the analogy of glasses helps us to get all children to understand. Now, Brittany, how do you get staff on the same page? I challenge you to do that glasses activity and argument with your whole staff. For and against glasses, for and against sensory tools. But also, Brittany, I have the Neurodiversity Network where I send out tips and ideas that you can put up to try and get staff on board. Because last year, that was the number one thing people kept telling me. How do I get everyone on board? And that's why I set up the Neurodiversity Network. So, Sarah, you wanted to take away 3 to 5 things. I'm hoping you have. Can everybody please write down in your handout what are 1 or 2 things you're going to try out this week? Are you going to talk about your senses more? Are you going to talk about interoception? What are you going to try out? So everybody, can you, once you've written down something on your handout, can you share in the chat something you are going to try out? The hour's gone really fast. I know. We've got 5 minutes to go. So you're doing well. Hang in there. Helen, just while we're doing that, wet weather day, I really feel for you. I mean, it would be nice if you could get a classroom opened but I've worked in secondary. It's really hard. I was wondering if you've got a little quiet area, or maybe the students could have, you quadrant off an area, but it's really hard without me knowing your school. And I'm sure you've already thought of all these things. Fiona, you're a relief teacher. I highly recommend send me an email. I have a great social script about what to do if you have a relief teacher, but I would ask teachers to give that out the day before if you know you're going in. The other thing I have found with relief teachers is the 1-page summary, which you can find on my tip sheets. I really recommend all teachers leave just a 1-page. It doesn't have diagnosis on there. Legally, we're not allowed to share diagnosis, but I highly recommend just a 1-page summary that actually includes important sensory notes. Because as a relief teacher, if you just know this about the student, get rid of the photo of me and put a photo of them. I'm loving all of the different things that you guys are putting up. So well done, guys. You have got through your sensory strategies that overlooked. I hope you've all got some great things. I love seeing all the things. Remember on Monday, the free Temple Grandin will be available, and it really is. I think it's 40 minutes and it's called How to Extend Your Students. So keep an eye out for that. And there's a lovely ebook with lots of strategies that Temple taught me in there too. And if you want to do the full Temple Grandin course, there's $50 off at the moment for the next 2 weeks. So if you haven't done Temple and you've done my course, I reckon Temple is your next step. Also, I hope that I'll see some of you out on my, what I'm calling Making a Difference tour this year. I love it when people come up and say hello or get a photo for their newsletter. I get a bit awkward asking, but come and ask me. I absolutely love meeting all of you. Please let anyone know who missed this afternoon that might find it helpful. The replay will be up tomorrow. I'll send you a link. You're more than welcome to share that with anybody. I know that it will make a difference to you and the children you know. And then I'm just going to check I haven't missed. Oh, yes. If you don't know about my podcast, there are heaps of podcast episodes, and I've actually put some really good sensory ones in the handout if you're interested in learning a little bit more. My podcast has had over 1 million downloads. I found out yesterday it's number 5 in the world in education, inclusive education, which is pretty amazing. Sorry, in America, not the world. I didn't mean to say the world, but in America. But I would love your feedback before you go. So if you would kindly hover your phone over the QR code and give me some feedback about this hour, because I'm always trying to work out what to do next. And like I've done this similar webinar, but I'm always adjusting. So if you can scan over that, that would be amazing. Laura, you asked about consequences and you've done my course. So Laura, can you just go back and look in your course handout about how consequences really work for our children, and particularly if it's sensory. But you've got a child who says, I don't care. I suspect that's a stock standard answer. And just really look at how to reward and motivate this child. But send me an email because I really want to help you. It is really tricky when you get children who say, I don't care. I understand. And you're an angel. You're a teacher assistant. I know you've probably tried lots of things. And Vicky, you had a child who you felt like is purposely doing behaviour. And in my course, which you've done, remember we go through sensory meltdown, behaviour meltdown, and tantrum. Again, I would just love you to email me so I can try and work out what is the purpose. Is the purpose sensory? Because it could be purposeful sensory-wise that the child's doing it. But I just didn't get quite enough information from you. And I appreciate that you took the time to send me a question and I didn't want to miss that. So if you do have any questions, please email me. Just reply to the email you get with the reply, with the replay from this afternoon. Thank you all for taking an hour to share with me this afternoon. It means the world to me. I hope you have got at least 1 or 2 strategies to make a difference to you and the children you know. And thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, or wherever you are in Australia or the world. Thanks, everyone. Oh, I love seeing you all wave goodbye. I still don't know who had that yes thing. I think they just disappeared. It was so cute. It had a big yes behind them. Thanks, Connie. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Sky. Love your love heart there. That's beautiful. Thanks, Julia.
Love you.
Oh, love you all more. So good to have you. I'm all teary. I love having you all on. Isn't this great? I do love Zoom. It's a good outcome of COVID. Thanks so much. Well, I hope you found that valuable, and I've got some great tips and strategies. At the end, I mentioned consequences, and I had so many emails and comments after about, what do you mean consequences don't work? So next week's podcast, I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into why consequences rarely work for neurodiverse children. Hope you can join me for that and take away some top tips and strategies. I hope you've got some great tips and strategies to make a difference. Remember, strategies wear out and not every strategy works for everybody. If you're ready to dive in deeper to more strategies and ideas to make a difference, I'd highly recommend you consider Dr. Tony Attwood or my online courses. For more information, visit my website www.sulaki.com.au.